has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains that act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people, our little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make the louder noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman, that we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you so much for tuning in and listening in at spacedoutradio.com and on Spreaker. As once again we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and broadcast you live on this Wednesday night, early Thursday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio we are broadcasting 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. Why? We get asked that a lot. It's because we want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, conspiratorial, ufological, cryptozoological, and so much more. Hey, if you're a fan of our music, and I know some of you love it, you can head to our new look website, spacedoutradio.com, and click on the guitar god himself, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. Check out a couple of his music vids by clicking on the Bumblefoot banner. You can also check us out on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And our website, of course, is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we say hello to everyone listening in on the SHR Media Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. Hey, Space Travelers, you can now head to our website and sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month, yeah, just $5, less than a Starbucks Grande, even though I don't speak coffee shop. And we will be doing monthly prize draws with your name entered, have private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and so much more. We're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. Also, check out our news feature, the SOR Space Wire. We have news editor Eric Markham working his tail off to get some great stories out online for you. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. The new Agora newspaper, the official paper of this show, and the iTunes app Spirit Storybox. It's the official ghost hunting app of Spaced Out Radio. The Crypto Guru is back for another round of Spaced Out Radio. Over the past year and a bit, author Ronald Murphy has quite quickly developed into one of our most important and more popular guests with his routine knowledge, it seems so routine, of everything from the crypto to the fairy realm. Doesn't matter if we're talking Bigfoot, Dogman, mermaids, or fairies, his romanticism of the subjects evokes a passion in his voice when he talks. It's amazing to listen to. If you've never heard the crypto before tonight, the Crypto Guru that is, well, you're in for a treat on SOR tonight. Mr. Murphy joins us the second Wednesday of every month to talk everything cryptid. Last month, we delved into the paranormal for the first time with Ron, and he brought on a special guest, Leah Madden, who is joining us again tonight. Tonight's topic is vampires. Are they just energy suckers? Is it the popular fad? Or, is there something more to this paranormal phenomena where immortal Dracula is actually still lurking around, looking to find another virgin neck to bite? The crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, how are you? I'm always doing well when you're on the air with us, and we are joined by Leah Madden as well. Leah, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. I'm excited to have you guys on as well. And one second here, because I think Skype is just absolutely being an idiot with us again, like they were last night. For some reason, I'll tell you, it's like my little computer problems here with Skype continue to happen. And the reason why is because when you deal in this field, there's always some kind of technical little jargon that happens. But we got you going now. So, Crypto Guru, good to have you back. Leah, good to have you back. Leah, you're not still pulling that nervous stuff, are you? Because you know, we should have ended that last show. And yeah, I'm just rubbing it in to get it out in the open right now. Good to have you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, actually, this month took forever to get here since our last time. It seems like a lifetime ago. I was actually chomping at the bit. I cannot wait for the second Wednesday of every month to come around. And I told Lee, I said, these guys are all your friends here. They're anxiously waiting to what you hear what you have to say. They want to participate. So I said, let's go out and have some fun this evening.
Absolutely, and you know what? The more we bring on, the more we are going to actually learn about these subjects. And it's not just about learning, it's about finding out the experiences, Ron, that people are having today. When you hear of some of these experiences, whether it's vampires, whether it's dogman, werewolves, aliens, whatever it may be, are you still excited about these sightings that people are having? And how many of them do you actually buy?
Well, that's a great question. Every time that I hear somebody having a sighting, even if it's something completely off the wall, like somebody sighting a gargoyle, which people do report seeing nowadays, especially up in my neck of the woods, I get very excited because I know that there are still mysteries out there to solve. And I am very skeptical when it comes to any kind of reports, but the ones that I take to heart, the ones that really strike me, is whenever I get these big burly guys coming up to me and telling me about seeing something in the woods that they simply could not explain, and tears come to their eyes. They start shaking, and they're visually, physiologically upset about what they had seen. It struck them to the very quick, if you will. These are the kind of reports I just treasure, because I know that something struck them so immediately and so primally that it really shook their outlook on life. And these are the people that I really take to heart, and these are the reports that I absolutely believe in, and this is what keeps me out there, day in and day out, investigating the unexplained.
Ron, I want to get your take on this, because there's a lot of people out there who just want to be believed. They know they're not crazy. They know they are not on medication. They know they're not alcoholics or drug users or doing anything illicit. They know they don't have any medical problems that would connect to their psychosis or anything like that. How important is it when a voice like yours, who's been researching these subjects, comes along and says, I believe you?
Well, And that also is another good question, or another good comment, because so much of it does have to do with wanting somebody to believe you. Sometimes I look at myself as a confessional. People have kept something within them for years, sometimes decades, not wanting to share it with anybody because they were afraid of ridicule. And I will lend a sympathetic ear. I mean, people tell me stories that I am quite positive are figments of their imagination. But it's the people, like we had talked about, that have genuinely had some sort of experience, that they need to get this off of their chest. They need to talk to somebody. And I do feel privileged in my position to be that person. And, this has happened to me at quite a few conferences. Actually, probably every conference I've attended, somebody has come up to me and shared a story about the unexplained that has really, upset them. They've been keeping it to themselves. And whenever they finally let it out, it's like a cathartic experience for them. They finally got this huge weight off of their shoulders. And I feel privileged. I feel flattered to be in that type of position. I've worked in human services for, a number of years, almost, close to 20 years. And, I use those same type of techniques in dealing with people reporting unexplained incidences that I would in dealing with, the elderly or at-risk children and these other segments of society that I've dealt with in the past as clients. So I do feel that I treasure my position in the paranormal field as somebody that will lend a sympathetic ear.
Leah, what is your take on that when someone comes up to you and says, I need to tell you this story, you're probably not going to believe me? And there's a lot of people out there, let's be honest, who are seeking their 15 minutes of fame, or maybe they are playing a hoax because they think these topics are just so damn easy to pick on people with, and there's cruel people out there. But when you get someone genuine who comes up to you and says, I need to talk to you, how do you handle it?
I'm usually very open. People usually will come up to me. For some reason, they feel that they need to talk to me, tell me things, this is my experience. But I'm able and aware to not only read them, but I read their aura, so I can normally tell if they're straight on or if they're not. But for the majority of the people, they are very emotional. You can tell that they're emotional. You can tell that what they've experienced is actually real. And you just are open with them. You take your time with them. You have a lot of patience, and you just let them talk.
Leah, out of all the people that you speak to, and you speak to a lot of people much like Ron does, let's say if we use a study of 10 people, out of those 10 people who come up to you with experiences, how many of them are legit?
I would say probably 8 out of 10. In my experiences, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. That's a lot. That number is actually surprisingly higher than where I thought you would say. I thought you would say 3 or 4. How about you, Ron?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now, Lee and I work in different fields, if you were. She's dealing with very emotional type of paranormal phenomena whenever you're dealing with the psychic realm, which is the reason I love to work with psychic and mediums, because they are seeing a completely other dimension in these fields of researches that need to be, illuminated even more. But whenever it comes to somebody experiencing something, a cryptid moving through the woods, I would say about 3 or 4 people that come up to me are probably genuine. Now, I will say that probably 80% of the people that come up to me are reporting something they genuinely believe that they have seen, a Bigfoot or whatever, but that can be explained away by other natural factors or, misidentification. But about 3 or 4 people, I would say, give me some sort of report that is filed away in the drawer of the unexplained. There's no other way to describe it. But we also have to take into consideration how these reports are given to us. If they are in very specific conferences and people are searching you out for this kind of information, then I think the numbers go way up. But if we're in generalized conferences, which we will tend to do every now and then, just a couple of weeks ago we were in a very generalized conference area that people were dealing with, the cryptids as well as, other things. Those people that come up to you, you have to scrutinize a little bit more because a lot of times, they're with their girlfriend and they're just playing around and see if they can pull one over on you. But I would think that I get 3 or 4 out of 10, so about 30 or 40% of the reports that come to me are classified, at least to my mind, as unexplained.
So when you get these reports, what is the age category of people? Let's break down the genres, Ron. And we'll do the same thing with Leah here momentarily, because she's on more of a intuitive psychic level. But when you get reports, is it coming from more men than women? Is it coming from, say, men between the ages of 25 and 45 or 45 and 60, or women that are younger? Is it teenagers? Break it down for who is actually contacting you.
Perfect, yes. Whenever it comes to the cryptids, now I was lucky enough that I was able to make a school program where I would actually go in, present evidence and things related to Bigfoot and other cryptids from a very scientific point of view. And I was able to teach this in a classroom in a private school, and the children were in awe of it. They were learning about everything from migration and habitat and camouflage within this little classroom, and it was all related to Bigfoot, which kids absolutely adore. Now, whenever it comes up to kids giving reports, and I got plenty of reports from children after I gave this presentation, they were raising their hands and they were saying that there was a juvenile Sasquatch in the field behind their house, or they saw something looking in their windows and this and that. They were using terminology that they have seen off of the reality TV shows, and that's to be accepted. Kids will naturally kind of assume an identity of whatever they're seeing or hearing on television. So whenever it comes to children giving reports, I would say if I get one report out of 20 from a child, that could be classified as unexplained, because there's just so many kind of interfering factors involved. Now, very rarely do I get a woman coming up to me and say they've had a cryptid encounter. That doesn't happen very often. I mean, whenever it does, it's usually on a road. It involves a car. The woman is driving. They see something out of the periphery, out of the corner of their eye. So it's nothing immediate. It's nothing confrontational. Now, whenever we come up to the category of men, say ages 18 to 30, 35, 40 years old, the guys that are in the woods, these are the guys that have the very emotional kind of encounters. And I believe that men generally put out an aura of confrontation. It's just our makeup. It's just the vibe that we give. And I think whenever a man goes out into the woods, the creature, whatever the makeup of the Sasquatch or the Dogman or what have you, they see that this territorial interference as something to be thwarted, very, very quickly, to take it out. So I think that's why we have this fear factor involved with encounters between men between the ages of 18, I would say, to 45, in cryptid encounters, because there is what they're encountering does not want them in their territory anymore. So, and I don't have encounters like that in relation to women. I've been on investigations before with women. My wife has had a stick thrown on her at one pretty momentous Chestnut Ridge expedition that we did in Pennsylvania a few years ago. But as far as women reporting any kind of fear within their sightings or their encounters. I find that very, very rare. So I would say the main people that are giving me these reports are people that are hunting in the woods or working in the woods between the ages of 18 and I would say 40 years old. And these are the ones that usually come up to me and with tears in their eyes, and then, they talk about seeing something they can't explain, that, their bowels release, their bladder release. I mean, really physiological changes that come on over these people from these encounters. And I think a lot of this has to do with the territorialism of these creatures that they're coming in contact with. And the research that I'm doing right now, Dave, it involves the idea and the notion of infrasound and pheromones. That these creatures are able to put out some sort of sound barrier, if you will. And infrasound is something that has been proven. It is biological. It happens in the animal world. Hippos are able to produce it. Giraffes, elephants, whales. This is the terrestrial animals and aquatic mammals. They do produce these sounds. So if there is a creature out there like a Bigfoot or a creature out there like a Dogman, and they are somehow able to evolve the aspect of infrasound, then you're able to be territorial from a distance. And I think that might be what's going on whenever people talk about feeling like, a sound wave hits them on the chest and they feel overcome with emotions, because I think infrasound might be used. But this is usually used on men who are predominantly between the ages of 18 to 40 years old.
Are your statistics, when it comes to male-female, age-related on this, Leah, is it pretty much the same, or because you're more on a spiritual level, you get more of a female side?
I normally get more of a female side, but that's not to say that that men don't have this, experiences. They don't have a tendency to talk as much about, especially if you're talking about the spirit realm, experiencing ghosts or what have you. Most men will be like, it takes an awful lot for them to have proof that there's like a spirit in their house. But most women are more intuitive and more sensitive to say, no, we have something in our house. We have something going on. And that also goes to young children, too. I had worked a while ago, several years ago at a church for an after-school program, and it was haunted. It was very, very haunted. And the children were always, they'd come up to me. So-and-so, I see, or, they saw just as much as I did. And we're talking from an age range between kindergarten up to through 5th grade. And children are more open and are able to see. It's the adults that say, oh, no, you can't. That's imaginary. But if you pay attention, children have the sight of being able to see. The fairy realm, the spirit realm, if it is, a cryptid, what have you. They're more likely to see it than an adult. For women that I've come into contact with, teenage years through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, many, many women have had experiences with like the spirit realm or having a haunting or what have you. And they'll usually come forward saying, hey, I need somebody to come to my house before, say, their husband would say that. And oftentimes I find that the men are more skeptical than the women.
Well, of course, men are supposed to be tough. We're supposed to be able to have answers for anything. I mean, let's face it, we are still quite caveman-like when it comes to our own feelings, rather than realizing it's 2016 and it's okay to say you hurt or you don't understand or this has affected you emotionally. Right.
No, don't get me wrong. There was a few guys that owned a house together, and they were having a major problem, and they weren't shy to say, hey, we need somebody to come in and take care of this. So I do have men that will come forward. It's just far and few between.
We got a couple minutes left before we are going to go to break. Leah, I'm going to finish off this first half hour with you here. When it comes to men that you talk to, because now that you've brought this up, I'm kind of curious, how long does it take for you to break down that barrier, knowing that you have to in order to get an answer to what is going on?
For me, because of the type of person that I am and the energy that I have, it usually doesn't take very long. Usually within meeting a person, sitting, having conversation, probably less than an hour.
Well, that's not too long. And Ron,
Yeah.
how about for yourself? How long does it usually take you to get through? Or because it's man talk, that it's a lot easier for you?
Yes. Well, usually whenever the guys come up, like I said, they already have this kind of burly demeanor to them. They already are putting on a show, posturing and and kind of demoting even before they get to me, because they don't want to sound like that guy. They don't want to sound like the typical guy that has seen something in the woods and scared the heck out of them. So they're already putting on a show, an air to them. So I usually can see it breaking down within the first few minutes, to tell you the truth. So whenever people come up to give reports to me, unlike with Leah, it's not so much a counseling session that I have. So I would say usually whenever they tell me that they're out, on 4x4s or they're out on their quads or whatever, and then it leads into seeing something. At that point, whenever their eyes start watering and they start even getting, visible goosebumps on their arms, then I know something's up. So with me, I would say probably within the first few minutes that I know if this is, there's something really happening here.
When I have, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please, you finish off.
When I'm like having clients come to me, what have you, usually it takes men to relax. They're very fearful of what could I possibly know or tell them, but then within, like I said, within 15, 20 minutes, they start to relax. Usually within an hour, things are going smooth. They're willing to be open. They're willing to talk. They're willing to share, and but they're just so afraid. They're afraid that, this couldn't possibly, but once they realize, they're like, I can finally talk and discuss this.
That makes a lot of sense. Tonight we are with the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, and special guest, Leah Madden. We're going to be getting into vampires coming up here on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to hop out for our first break of the night. When we come back, Ron, I have a little surprise for you. One of our listeners, Joe, had a strange sound around his place, and I'm going to play you the tape live next. And I want to know what you think about it. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this break.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Hi there. This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 Mediums and a Large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for. So join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost?
Look no further than Spaced Out Radio.
SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click on to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on radio
or our website, including social media.
From commercial spots to banners, we have it all.
Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with the U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Want to connect with us online? Find us on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR, on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. All right, space travelers, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. And welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the show, we are going to be joined by Annie Wilder. We're stepping into the paranormal again. This time, we're getting Annie's written accounts from truck drivers driving all across America and their paranormal experiences. I am so looking forward to this one because, let's face it, truckers see a lot of weird stuff. And let's get into their paranormal stories tomorrow night. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. You can check out our news feature, the SOR Space Wire, by our resident news director, Eric Markham. Read any of our blogs. You can join the affiliates page if you're with a paranormal, cryptid, or UFO group, or you have a really good radio show like this one. You can also join the SOR Space Travelers, where for only $5 a month, just $5, that's less than a Starbucks coffee, and you will get your name automatically entered into prize draws, a special section on our website for your own postings, and a heck of a lot more. Other stations, well, they just give you their archives for your money. Not us. We're giving back to you. I want to say a quick hello to Roger Weir in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. First time listening in to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you, Roger, for allowing us to earn your time with your experiences. We appreciate you spending it with us. Tonight we are talking with the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, and Leah Madden, special guest, as we are talking vampires on the monthly Crypto Guru segment, which happens the second Wednesday of every month. Ron, Leah, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, sir, yes.
Excellent. So before the break, I told you I had some audio to play for you. One of our listeners, Joe, who lives on the Nevada-California border, he gets some strange things that happen around his property. From owls all the time, and you know owls are said to be messengers, to his horses having their manes braided. And we all know that's usually from Bigfoot. So, the other night, Joe is listening to the show, and he types into the SOR Space Travelers room on Facebook, saying, I keep hearing this weird fluttering sound. It would go on and off for about 30 seconds, and he was able to record it. So, I'm going to play this for you right now, and you can tell me what you think. And here we go. And for some reason, I don't have volume on it. 1 second here. Let's see if I can get some volume here. Because for some silly reason, it doesn't want to all of a sudden play. Let's try this again. See if we can get this going. Turn up the volume on that to high. Okay, here we go. We're going to bring this back. Don't mind the Facebook sound. Now, were you able to hear the fluttering sound?
Definitely, without a doubt. How about you, Leah?
Yes.
Okay, so what happened there was Joe was having this happen, and this was from quite a distance away that these sounds were happening. And he's sitting out on his patio, I'm assuming, listening to the show, because what else would one want to do on a Tuesday night or any night of the week besides listen to us? And this sound kept happening throughout the show. To me, I would almost say that it sounds like a moth or a bird real up close, like within inches of where he is. But Joe, being the avid listener that he is, I don't think he's going to BS this show. He's not a first-time listener. He just wants to know what is going on. What does that sound like to you, Ron?
Well, I have had a report from a gentleman, this probably is going back 20 years, on the Chestnut Ridge in western Pennsylvania, where I do my research. And the way he described the sound whenever he heard it, and if you can remember the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger called Predator, he described it as the sound the Predator made when it was cloaked moving through the woods. And I've heard similar sounds like that before in recordings, and that's what it struck me. It does sound very natural, like a flutter of wings, but it also, to me, as I said earlier on, that I am doing a lot of research in infrasound, it almost sounds like the clicks that certain dolphins and whales make as well too. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there because, like you said, the sound quality isn't fantastic. But as far as I'm concerned, I've had similar reports of those same kinds of sounds in relation to Bigfoot creatures. So, what's Leah's take on this?
I was just going to ask that.
Definitely sounds more of a supernatural, of a cryptid type being. My first thought, it's going to sound strange, but my first thought was, wow, that sounds like Predator.
See, there you go. Yep.
That's what I thought. It sounded exactly like Predator. I would say it's some type of bird-like, reptilian-like creature. That's my first impression.
See, with me on this end, because I'm hearing it out of a speaker, I know what Predator sounds like and everything, and to me it almost sounds like, when you're up close to, if you're feeding geese at a pond or a lake and they start flapping their wings really fast, they're not taking off, they're just kind of stretching their wings and it makes that sound. To me, that's what it sounds like.
Geez, maybe he has a bat squatch there. Maybe he had a visitation from Mothman. I don't know. You said this was up in Canada, correct?
No, this is in between on the California-Nevada border.
Oh, I see.
Oh, that could even have been... I was going to say, like what you said, Ron, like a bat squatch, or...
Yeah.
But it could also be like one of the mythological owls, too.
That's right. Yeah, the whole notion of the owl man. That's one of these very rare cryptids that people really don't talk about anymore, because I think that it's kind of morphed into our notion of what the Mothman is. But people have reported these owl-type creatures before. Interesting. I would recommend that there are a game camera is put up. I usually recommend that to anybody that's ever had any kind of strange sound or strange feeling in the area. They're cheap enough for everybody to have one. But I would continue, recording, because, the gentleman that recorded that might actually have something going on there.
Well, I do know Joe, and he's just said he's west of Lake Tahoe. And,
I see.
And I know that's Bigfoot area right there. And I do know that he has had, much like a couple of other of our listeners who kind of live in the wilderness, who have had their horse manes braided, which is, to me, phenomenal. I'd love to see one of those. But what's happening here is, he does have trail cameras out, because every night in the SOR Space Travelers, he posts a critter report from his trail cams, because he keeps thinking there is Bigfoot around, and, well, he hasn't caught Bigfoot yet. But on the flip side, if Joe sits there and says, "Look, this sound was coming from the bushes, and I think the bushes are close to 60, 70 feet away, if not further, and we're getting that sound," to me that doesn't sound like a goose sitting in a tree, because geese don't sit in trees. It doesn't sound like it would be an owl would be able to make that kind of sound.
That's right. Also, if this gentleman was sitting out on a porch, there is obviously some intended interaction going on here. If there is a creature out there that has some, semblance of intelligence, and he knows that there's a human being out there, this seems like some sort of, mode of, I wouldn't go as far as communication, but maybe some sort of territoriality going on.
Do you think, though, that it would be cryptid, or do you think it's just a regular animal in your best view, Ron?
I am one of these guys that is completely skeptic. So I would say, as far as I'm concerned, what I'm hearing there is a recording of a very bizarre sound that I can actually not pinpoint. Now, I can speculate and I can, give you an evaluation of what it sounds like to me, but we would need to have further evidence. Because, if there is something out there that's unidentified, science is going to require, preponderance of the evidence to prove any kind of, genuine thing walking around out there. So I would need a little bit more proof, so I would tell Joe to keep on recording.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I think we need to do that as well. Roger, our new listener, has a question for you about Bigfoot. And we'll start with you on this one, Ron. Says, yes, I am a first-time listener tonight, so welcome aboard to you, Roger. Thank you. In regard to special abilities that Bigfoot may have, and since it seems to be a given that they can see in the dark somehow, what are the odds that they can see into the ultraviolet spectrum rather than infrared, which seems to be more common in reptiles and insects rather than primates and other mammals?
Oh, very, very cool.
He's coming out big. He's coming out big right off the bat. Yeah, I like that.
He is swinging for the fences. If the Bigfoot creature is nocturnal, it may be nocturnal because that's the best way to stay elusive. So I'm not sure exactly what kind of vision the creature would have. I assume that it would be better than ours, but So we have to talk about the nature of Bigfoot. Okay, now first of all, I am not 100% sure that Sasquatch actually exists. I think that that's why we're all talking about it and looking for it. I've never seen one. Dave, I know that you've seen one. I know that you've had very, very personal experiences. But until I have a personal experience, I'm going to have to, I will have to weigh on the side of caution until I have that one particular experience. But if there is a creature out there called Bigfoot, what is it? I mean, is it terrestrial? Is it extraterrestrial? Or is it interdimensional? So we're talking about a creature that may not even exist on this plane. So we're dealing with quite a conundrum here. But I would assume that if it is a terrestrial animal, it is native to planet Earth, that it would have definitely developed some sort of way to see in the dark, much better than we see now. Boy, that is a. You said this is his first time listening. Is that correct?
That is. We are absolutely. He hit it out of the ballpark. Roger, the pressure's on now for your questions. I am gonna say that when the crypto guru gets stumped, there is something to what is going on. So. Good for you. I'll fill in here for a quick second if you don't mind. Unless Leah, you wanna chime in on the whole Bigfoot?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So what I think it is more so is not that they can just see at night, but I honestly believe that there is a very strong validity that they do have the ability to almost see as good as a cat would at night, as good as any type of amphibian at night or anything that hunts at night. But I also strongly believe, in my opinion, that Bigfoot is very, very intuitive. It is very interdimensional. That is my belief. I know mainstream science and a lot of people who we've had on this show will not believe that at all, but in my opinion, that's what it sounds like. And my own experiences lead me that way. And I honestly believe that when it comes to this creature, we can't hold anything off record. Because I don't believe for a second that it is absolutely Nephilim or the missing link to mankind, or Gigantopithecus. There's more to it than just that.
Yeah, Dave, see, you've made a fantastic point here. And there's so many researchers that I deal with, on a daily and a weekly basis who do close off any type of research that is counter to their paradigm of what this creature happens to be. And that is dangerous. That's dangerous from a scientific point of view, and that's dangerous from a cryptozoological point of view. We must collect all the evidence out there. We cannot be just, a terrestrial camp. We cannot be just an interdimensional camp or an extraterrestrial camp. If we are getting reports of Bigfoot doing very, very strange things, we have to take these all into account. That's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this, this great mystery that's out there roaming around in our woods. Now, you had said earlier about people reporting their horses' manes being tied together and all this other kind of stuff. Of course, I love to talk about the goblin universe and the world of the fairy. That was something that was the hallmark of fairy activity back in the Middle Ages. People reporting that they knew there were fairies about in England, and even in New England, for that matter, after, the Pilgrims came here. So we're talking about from the 12 and 1300s in England, the whole way up until the 1700s in New England, whenever they came across. Of their horses, or even their sheep, having these strange braids in their hair. That was something that was attributed to fairy activity. They knew fairies were about because there was these telltale signs. And that's an interesting thing, because what realm does the fairy belong to? These are elemental spirits. These aren't things of the terrestrial world. They're from another dimension. So when we talk about, Bigfoot investigators going out there and finding a trackway that goes for a mile and that has suddenly vanished, well, what happened, and we're talking about, people seeing something and the next minute they don't, or we're thinking they see something, which I've got a lot of reports about what is called the psychic Bigfoot. What's going on here? There's something strange going on, and I would urge any investigator that might be out there listening to please keep an open mind. We're talking about the world of the paranormal here, so we have to keep an open mind because we have no idea what normal is in the world of the paranormal. So I would urge everybody, who's researching this conundrum to work with each other to get to the bottom of this.
Very interesting indeed. Well, let's start to shift gears here. I want to play that audio. I've downloaded that audio into a different area here, and oh goodness, you're not going to be able to hear that. Yeah, never mind. Let's shift gears and get to what we brought you on for tonight. All right, vampires. Now, a lot of people today, especially about 10 years ago, being a vampire was the thing. It was the hot thing to be, where people were drinking each other's bloods that was drained from arms or fingers or toes or buttocks, whatever it was. There was also energy vampires, and I think we've all met a number of those, especially being in this field. But Leah, let's start with you on this one, since you haven't talked for a while. Do you believe vampires, from what we know through history, are still around?
Absolutely. I truly do believe that. I've had my own encounters, my own experiences, and I have been studying vampires since I was 13 years old. And I would have to say that they do exist. They exist in many different forms. It's not just one over the other, but they do exist.
What makes you believe that? Tell us about your experience.
I've had several, and keep in mind they've been different ways, different kinds that I've had experiences with. One was years ago. I was at college, and I often took nighttime classes. And I walked into the one room from my class. It was a history class, and there was a young gentleman in the room. He looked at me, I looked at him, and I instantly knew. He was. He had very, very pale skin. His hair was dark. He was dressed in dark clothes. But it was his energy. The only way I can describe it is I recognized him and he recognized me for what I was. And I stayed to the front of the room. He stayed to the back of the room. And he didn't stay in the class very long. He might have been there one or two times, and then he quit. He dropped the class.
Wow.
Another time I was in Florida. I was visiting family, relatives, and we were walking along the boardwalk area in the one section. And as we were walking along it was almost like a strip mall area with a boardwalk. And I could instantly feel that there was a vampire. He knew I was in his area. It was a very psychic, telepathic connection. And he made sure he wanted me out of his area. And he followed me most of the night until we left.
Do you believe they are immortal?
I would say there are different types, and on a certain level I would say that there are. There are ones that are immortal.
That is a very big statement to make. You realize that, Leah?
I do. If they aren't, say, immortal, they live hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And they age at a very slow rate. But I would have to say that, yes, they do exist.
Ron, what is your take on that? Do you believe that vampires are not only immortal, walking around, or do you believe that the the premise, the cryptid side of the monster side of vampires, Dracula, whatever you want to call it, are still inhabiting the planet today?
Yeah, I do. Of course, I look from a cryptid point of view, and I also look from a very historical point of view. And, these tales of these night-dwelling creatures who come and feed off the living have been with us since we first left Africa. And they were probably even with us when we were still on the savannah, before we even left Africa. They're part of our collective unconscious. They're hardwired into who we are as human beings. Now, that being said, there are reports of vampires being killed. So if things are being killed, I'm going to have to say that they are probably not immortal, because then we have this whole difficulty of they will live forever just as long as somebody doesn't kill them. Unless, of course, we are dealing with some sort of vampiric spirit. And the first vampire that comes to mind is the notion of Lilith, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard before. They even named an all-woman, music fair after Lilith back in the early '90s. It is. It depends upon what kind of mythology you're delving into regarding this, but as far as a creation story goes, as far as the Jewish mythology, she would have been the first woman created for Adam. Now, Lilith also has this sexual connotation to her as well. And I got to tell you, Dave, I got to be totally honest with you. One of the reasons why I do like vampires so much is because they are pretty gosh darn sexy. If I could think of any cryptid to be seduced by, it would be undoubtedly a vampire, correct? I mean, I think that that's just the way we look at these things. So, that being said, people for thousands of years have held this sexual connotation with these creatures of the night. And we also see this in our movies. Whenever Christopher Lee bit somebody on the neck, this was just basically a euphemism for some sort of sexual activity. So, we had to kind of whitewash it there. But, there's this sexual primal drive to these creatures. A part of the Jewish belief system was Lilith was the creature that would bring, nocturnal emissions to men. It was almost like a succubus that was a plague of the land. But this is a quite ancient myth, even before the Jewish people attached any significance to her. We see her as a female demon in Mesopotamia and Sumer, and the Akkadians worshipped her. And, well, worship is not the right word to use. They feared her, as well as the Assyrians and the Babylonians. And her name means night monster. So she's even mentioned, this is interesting too. She's even mentioned in a list of monsters recorded in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So she has been with us for a very, very long time. And so Lilith could be seen as an immortal vampiric spirit that has, feasted on the living since time immemorial.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you to hold your thoughts right there. The crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, and special guest Leah Madden are our guests tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott. We're going to take a break here at the top of the hour. When we come back, more immortal and vampire talk with the crypto guru and special guest Leah.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio on the Spreaker.com network.
you believe you've been in contact with extraterrestrials? Have you seen the Greys, the Mantids, or the Reptilians? I am Samantha Mullet, and on the second Tuesday of each month, you can listen and learn from my experiences with off-worlders on Spaced Out Radio's The ET Experience. With host Dave Scott, we'll sit down and chat about what's going on with our friends from other worlds. We'll also try to answer your questions, so please tune in on the second Tuesday of the month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio. And we give it up to you guys, all the listeners and the live listeners. You usually get something special and hang out in the chat room. And we love to have you. So we'll see you every Saturday night at 8 p.m. You know where.
If you're a fan of social media, you can follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, where our archives are stored, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Tonight's password, if you're in the SOR Space Travelers Club, is Nosferatu. Nosferatu. I can't even pronounce it. Nosferatu. There we go. Nosferatu. Bill Cardwell, you stumped me on this one. Nosferatu is the password for the SOR. Nosferatu. Nosferatu. I just got it in my earbuds that I was pronouncing it wrong. Nosferatu is the password for the SOR Space Travelers. Well, you know what? Sometimes we, being on this side of the microphone, get it weird. But, hey, I also want to remind you, we just talked about immortality, and we're going to get more into immortals coming up with the Crypto Guru and Leah Madden here momentarily. But if you go to the Spaced Out Radio website, you check out Robert Rose's blog. It's about immortality. It would go very fitting with tonight's subject of vampires and immortals. spacedoutradio.com. While you're there, you can check out the Bumblefoot page if you want to listen to all our music that we play during this show. If you want to check out the SOR Space Travelers Club, we'd love it if you did. Sign up while you're there for just $5 a month. $5 on average. And with that, you get automatically entered into monthly prize draws. You also get entered into a private area on our website just for you to post. You also get entered into a monthly newsletter and private group interviews with a special guest, all for $5 a month, less than a Starbucks. So check it out today at spacedoutradio.com. Tomorrow night on the show, Annie Wilder will be with us. This great author has written a bunch of stories from long-haul truckers who have seen a lot of interesting paranormal experiences. That is tomorrow night on the show. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, to hear our archives. Now, we bring in the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, who makes his monthly appearance every second Wednesday of the month on this show. Leah Madden is also joining us. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Leah, you had a few more comments that you wanted to make about Lilith.
She's a very ancient being. Like Ron said, she was originally Adam's first wife. The whole falling out was because she wouldn't be subservient to Adam. And that's why Eve came in to be subservient as the second wife. Once she had left Adam, she refused to go back. And in turn, she created offspring in retaliation to mankind against God. So that's where you get the succubi, the incubi, the night demons. She is known as the night hag, the night demon, the screech owl. And anything that she had created would have been immortal in today's day and age.
Very weird. Very weird indeed. And I want to get into vampires a little bit more, but this immortal thing really, really has me interested. And the reason why is, if you go on the internet, and I realize that there are people that look alike throughout history. Hell, I have a picture of my grandfather from when he was in his early 20s, and when I was in his my early 20s, him and I were like twins. And there's one picture my aunt has on her wall where it's just like, I look at that picture and I say, wow, that looks exactly like me. But when we talk of immortals, there are so many photographs that are out there of people who seem to look immortal. There's pictures of John Travolta, Nicolas Cage, rapper Jay-Z. You know, there's questions about the Queen of England. How can she still be happy and kicking it at 90 plus years old and still be that effective in life? What do you think about that, Leah, when you hear stories like that?
I mean, you can look at it from the perspective of, okay, are they actually vampires? Are they recreating themselves through the ages? Is it just a genetic trait? There's some form of bloodline that maybe they're connected to that particular, person that's in that photograph. Or it could be also reincarnation. For instance, like Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, were they actually those people in a past life? And that's why they come back, because you don't change that much from lifetime to lifetime. You do have a tendency to have certain facial features that you will look as you did in prior lifetimes, regardless of sex, race. It doesn't matter, ethnic background. And the purpose of that is so that when you're reincarnated and you're reborn, you recognize yourself again, especially the eyes.
Ron, what is your take on that when you see these photos? There's another one, Robert Rose in the SOR Space Travelers. I know you can't see it. Actually, Ron, you can because you're in the group right now. But there's one of Alec Baldwin, when you look back in history and then you look at today's photo, I mean, they look like twins.
It does. There's something really strange going on there. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not going to say that they're vampires, but, I mean, these are all interesting points to bring up about the nature of, immortality, or the nature of, like Leah said, reincarnation. Now, if we go with the aspect of Lilith, and she was a created spirit, almost like an angel, then those kind of spirits don't die. I mean, that's part of our belief system, that these divinely created spirits are everlasting. And if she, in turn, created spirits, then it's to assume that these spirits are everlasting as well, too. Now, whenever we get to the notion that you had brought up about Nosferatu, the name meaning basically unclean, it has something to do with the spirit. But the spirit of the Nosferatu was the possessing spirit of that goes into the person. So it's very possible that these spirits, if they do exist, these vampiric spirits, go from one body to another body, or inhabit one body until it's completely used up, or possibly even, inhabit one body for hundreds of years. Again, it depends upon what mythology we are investigating, but to say that there is an element of truth to these pictures looking like people today that go back a few hundred years, there is precedent in our world mythologies to suggest that that is at least a possibility.
And Robert Rose in the SOR Space Travelers, he's also posted another picture of Sylvester Stallone and Pope Gregory. They look identical from the painting of Pope Gregory to what Sly Stallone looks like.
I'm going there right now. Let's see here. To keep up with these listeners of yours, it's a very difficult thing. These guys are on the ball, but
I know. While you're looking at that, Leah, let me ask you then, when it comes to immortals, a lot of people will say, look, we already know that every person on this planet has a doppelganger 2 or 3 out there. So how is it not possible that people have looked alike, hundreds of years apart?
Once again, I go back to the theory of reincarnation. You have a tendency to carry over certain facial features and certain body types throughout lifetimes. So whether it's an immortal being or it's just your spirit is just being reborn and choosing, when you're choosing your next body to incarnate in, you're going to say, well, you know what, I really liked how I looked back then, so I'm going to, make this next body basically look the same as I did back then.
And I can understand that. Do we have that much influence and power over our reincarnated selves?
Yes, we do. And in the in-between stages, after you've crossed over, you go through a time where it's a learning period. You get to study, you get to create, and you have spirit guides or angels and other soul group partners in the spirit realm that help you create your next life. You choose things that you're going to learn. You choose what your hair color is going to be like, what your eye color is going to be like, where you're going to be born, who your parents are. You will choose whether it's your biological parents or even your adoptive parents to come. But you choose your caregivers. You choose the people that you're going to incarnate with in your soul group. Now, when you're choosing that, now you figure your mother and your father. You choose those specific people, but the mother is always primary and the father is always secondary.
So do you believe then that there are immortal people walking on this planet right now?
Yes. Yes, I do. I wouldn't say there's a lot of them, but yes, I would say that there are people that have lived hundreds and hundreds of years.
Have you?
That's the thing. Let me interject there for a second. See, now I believe that is a very strong possibility. There are people out there living for hundreds and hundreds of years, but that doesn't necessarily make them immortal. But I am wondering, Leah, from a psychic point of view, do you feel that immortality is something that is at least a possibility on this plane of existence?
If it isn't now, at one time it was.
Okay.
Have you, Leah, ever met or know someone who has met an immortal person?
No, but I've done enough research, enough reading, enough studying to say that, yes, the possibility. Now, I'm not going to claim that it's 100%, but yes, it is a possibility that immortals do exist.
Would they be religious figures? Maybe a deal with the devil for it? Because, let's face it, deals with the devil have happened in the past. You look at the legend of the Crossroads. You look at other deals that people have said they've made, which is for fame and fortune in order to have a good life this life in trade for their soul.
that's going to be like a whole other ball game. But yes, just like Faust, yes, that is a possibility as well. You make a deal with the devil if you believe in the devil or that kind of aspect. Yes, there are demonic beings, but you make that blood pact, that exchange. But there's always a price. There's never a free card to it. There's always a price that has to be paid, whether it's losing everyone around you or whatever is dear to your heart. You're going to lose because there's always a price when you make a deal with the devil. Not necessarily your immortal soul. It could be somebody else's that you love.
What about people who say they have found the fountain of youth and have been able to keep living?
See, once again, you're getting into another whole realm of mythology and folklore. Does the fountain of youth exist? I would say it does. Where does it exist? I am not sure.
I paid $10 to get into it down in St. Augustine, Florida, so I know that it exists down there, and I have some bottle in my bookcase full of the water to prove it.
Has it worked yet? Have you brought it out for that special occasion?
No, I'll tell you what. The idea of immortality has got to be one of the most frightening things for me, because think about that. You see the world decaying around you while you stay constant. That's got to be one of the saddest things imaginable, So this is a very selfish thing that one would even wish upon themselves. So I think that it would be more of a curse than a blessing. So I think that we talk about the idea of a vampire passing on the ability of immortality. That's probably the greatest curse, because you'll never have any constancy. Anybody that you would love would die off while you stay the same age, and that has to be the greatest plague that the whole idea of vampirism would pose to the human being.
Oh, definitely. You have to stay single your entire life. There's no point in getting attached. And that could be heartbreaking as it is. I could see that. Let's go to a question from Joe here in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He's saying, it used to be easy to just adopt another persona after a few years if you live forever. But with the high tech of today, photographs, fingerprints, etc., wouldn't it be harder now to stay unnoticed, especially for those who are immortal?
Unless you have a government job. Yeah, that's the thing. I think that there will be, maybe that is our Illuminati. Maybe it's a group of immortals that actually are getting together and ruling the world, and they kind of fly over or under the radar, what have you. But these are all great speculations, and this will be great stuff for novels. How does one escape the identification of the new world order? Everybody is fingerprinted, like you said. Everybody requires ID cards. So, birth certificates. So it would be very, very difficult to be an immortal nowadays unless you had a government position that would enable you to fudge some vital records.
Leah, let's get to a question from Roger for you from the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. He's already hit one home run. I think this is a pretty good one, too.
I'm glad it's for Leah, too.
Yeah. He is asking, when it comes to vampires, are they considered undead? Example, you wouldn't be able to find a pulse, or more along the lines of being just a different form of life?
That could go in many directions. It depends on what type of vampire, because you have several different types. You have your sanguine, you have your psychic, you have your dreamscape, you have many different other types. You have your dimensional. As for the undead, I would say that that they do exist, that they, don't have a natural pulse, that their body is animated from a host that has taken over it. But that doesn't mean to say that that they're all like that, because they're not.
And Roger has a second question, and I'll ask this of you, Ron.
Okay, great.
Do we get to choose the time period of when we come back if time isn't necessarily linear? Couldn't we pretty much go anywhere?
Well, are we talking about
Roger's 3 for 3. I'm just going to say that. Roger is 3 for 3.
Okay, so if we're talking about reincarnation, that would be Leah's ballpark. If you're talking about quantum physics and you're able to open up a wormhole at different points in what we call history, then that is theoretically possible that you could jump around back and forth like that. But if he's asking a reincarnation question, then I would think that would happen to be Leah, but the whole idea of reincarnation is that you move onward and upward rather than regressing. So I'm not sure if you can time jump with reincarnation. I'm not sure if you can be born in the 21st century and then reincarnate in the 12th century, although that sounds like a very interesting kind of situation, if that is possible. But Leah, is that a possibility? Can you reincarnate through different time periods and jump back and forth?
With time slips and walk-ins, I would say yes, you can.
Boy, this is getting more and more complicated.
When you have certain walk-ins, it's when two people from two different time periods that actually exchange the body. So you could have a 12th century person step into a 21st century person and vice versa. And don't forget, time, we see time as linear, but time, your past, present, and future, even though the future is still unfolding, it's like a big clock, wheels on a clock where everything is just turning at the same time. So you have your different spokes, and for each spoke is a different time period. And everything is working together at the same time, at the same motion.
Very, very cool indeed.
Well, Claudia has an interesting comment in the SOR Space Travelers where she says her theory is the past, the now, and the past, the present, and the future all exists at the same time.
Yes. Because once again, we see, like, as we go on about our daily lives, we see it as a clock. It's okay, it's 12, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's dinner time. Everything is very linear, but time isn't linear. Time exists at all one time. So you have your past and your present and your future, and it all coexists at one time. It's one big timeline. It's like a big, huge clock.
Yes,
That's
yes,
why
yeah. Go ahead,
that's why you're able to. That's why if we're talking about time travel, that's why time travel is possible, because you can open up those portals. You can step back. You can step forward.
Ron?
Yeah, I think, from a scientific point of view, the stars that we see, the light that we see from the stars is going back, thousands, if not millions of years ago, So, the light that we're seeing now is an illusion, right? Because we're looking back in time. Even the light that we get from the sun takes about 8 minutes to get to the Earth. So we are, involved in, this myth of time, because we do depend upon watches and all these kind of time-keeping devices, which is an artificiality. But yeah, I have no problem thinking that we can slide back and forth through time. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to bow to the knowledge of Leah on such such theories involving reincarnation and such. So yeah, I mean, this is very complicated. It's very theoretical, this is actually another show in and of itself, which I would love to listen to. But this is well beyond my pay grade.
Well, I hear you there. This one kind of took off into its own direction, and sometimes that seems to happen. Let's get it back to the vampires, and we were talking about immortality with vampires. Where did the whole idea of vampires and the whole history start? Well, let's start with you, Ron.
Well, like I said, with the idea of Lilith, you're going back a very, very long time. You're actually going back to the very nascence of the human species. We've had this idea that there's something out there in the darkness that will prey upon us. That it needs us to live, and that's a very scary notion. To think that there's a predator out there that is human in form, has the same intelligence, if not a greater intelligence, and it's something that's created, and it would be very difficult to kill, if not impossible to kill. This is going back from the very beginning of what we call the human being, and it's followed us up throughout the ages. Whenever you get to the times, the Greeks, the Romans, you start coming up with, remedies on how to kill the undead, or how to stop revenants, which are the spirit-infused corpses of the dead. Some sort of supernatural entity possesses the bodies of the dead and reanimates them, to do their bidding. So it's kind of like a dwelling for an evil spirit. See, these are very interesting ideas, and it depends on how you view and what mythology you go to how the vampire interacts with the world of the living. Now, as far as the idea of a cryptid, we do see notions, and we do see places like in India where there were terrible attacks on livestock and on people that the townsfolk had blamed on vampires, and the vampire is even present in the mythology of the chupacabra. It sucks the blood of the victim. So it depends upon what mythology you look at. But to get back to your question, the idea of something that feeds upon the living has been with us since the very beginning, and it continues with us to this very day.
Leah, what's your thoughts on it? Actually, you know what? Before we get to Leah's thoughts on that, let's go to a commercial break here at the bottom of the hour. The crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, is joining us along with Leah Madden. We are talking vampires, immortals, and whatever else comes up, because right now I think we've kind of lost control of this one, but in a good way. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Fairies, Bigfoot, dogmen, trolls, goblins? Hey, if it's cryptid in any way, I'm looking into it. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, also known as Spaced Out Radio's Crypto Guru. Join me every second Wednesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will talk about the stories people call tall tales. I will fill you in on the latest sightings and the hidden histories that are causing quite a stir. You can find everything at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
Would you like to expand your clientele? Have you ever thought of online radio advertising? Check out spacedoutradio.com to get your name out there. Our listeners support those who advertise with us, so why not give it a try? We have the most competitive advertising prices out there. Just click on the advertising tab on spacedoutradio.com and contact us today.
Are you an ET experiencer, but you just don't know what's going on? Are you too timid or shy to discuss it with anyone? Maybe I can help. Join me, R. Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Radio, and I will help you to find the answers you're looking for. Together, I will help you understand the off-worlders and the true meanings behind your experiences. All you have to do is join us in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. See you there.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness. You can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Tomorrow night on the show, Paranormal Trucking Stories. We're going to hear from author Annie Wilder tomorrow night, and we're going to talk about her latest book about the haunted stories that many truckers have while out on the roads delivering goods and services across our nations. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, that starts. Reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. While visiting our website, you can check out many cool features, including the SOR Space Wire. That is our news wire with Eric Markham. You can also check out our team that we have built up here, our writers of some really great blogs, including yours truly, and you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club, where for only $5 a month, you get entered into prize draws. You get a private section on the website, access to private group interviews for just SOR Space Travelers, and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Now, tonight we bring in the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, for his monthly appearance, which happens the second Wednesday of every month. Joining Ronald tonight, just like last month, intuitive Leah Madden. We're talking vampires. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
Hey. Yep, very glad.
Awesome. Always a pleasure to have you guys here. Now, what I would like to ask is the history of Dracula. Now, we all hear, when we think of Dracula, we all think of Transylvania. But in the 1500s, there actually was a Dracula who wasn't very nice to people. Who wants to take that one?
Because I love the history part of this, and then I'm sure that Leah will chime in as well too. But ever since I've been a kid, I've always been fascinated by good old Vlad the Impaler. Who wouldn't be fascinated by this guy? He was bloodthirsty, yes. He did enjoy putting people on pikes and and impaling people and everything. But in context, he was very much a ruler of his time. They were very merciless. They were into spectacle. They had to make a show because they had to control not only their own people, but they had to control the kingdoms and principalities around them. So they had to be ruthless. But, whenever we talk about good old Vlad, he probably was born sometime, close to the mid-1400s. We're dealing with a time whenever the forces of Islam is taking over Eastern Europe. Constantinople will fall in 1453, and it will become a Muslim country, replacing the Christianity that had held sway there for the past 1400 years. So Vlad had to be a showman. He had to show that he was capable of any kind of deed necessary to control his kingdom. So when we talk about the impaling, this is something that is very ghastly to think about. But in doing my research on good old Vlad, we find out that whenever he was a mere teenager, he was taken captive, during one of these exchange programs. Whenever he was almost like a bond, a surety during a campaign. So he was handed over to the enemy. Most reports at least allude to the fact that there was probably, some sort of sexual abuse going on. And that would be understandable at this time period as well, too. He was a young boy in enemy hands. He could not be killed because of the arrangement they had, but he would be, heinously abused at the drop of a hat. So what a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists are now thinking is that whenever we look at the impaling that Vlad used on his victims, he was actually working out psychologically the kind of abuse that happened to him. So we think about the impaling stake, entering through the rectum and exiting through the mouth. It has, the perfect psychological connotations, of the abuse that he went through. So we're dealing with a man who would probably be classified nowadays as a psychotic, but as far as rulers went back in the mid-15th century, we're dealing really with most other rulers at this time period. Of course, urban legends developed around him. They did have urban legends back then as well, that he would feast among the seizure, the corpses that were seizing on the impaling spikes, drinking their blood and everything. But these are probably just nothing more than legends to kind of heighten his appeal. But he did, he died. Some people claim he died in battle. Some people claim that he was murdered by his own people, what have you. But it's interesting because in the last few years, they seem to have, discovered his gravesite. They opened it up, and lo and behold, there is no body in there, further increasing the mystique of Vlad as the actual Dracula. Vlad Dracul. He was the Order of the Dragon, but he was a very ardent. He was a champion of the Christian right. That's the way we would look at this. And this was a time of religious turmoil. So he was actually fighting on the side of the good. And some people in his country view him almost as a George Washington type of figure because he was able to solidify the economy. Even though it was an agrarian economy, he was able to at least solidify it and keep it in par with the other countries of Europe. So that's a little bit of background on the actual history of the human being named Vlad the Impaler.
So how did we go from Vlad the Impaler to sucking blood out of animals and people's necks and had to be a virgin and the whole Hollywood stereotype of what vampirism is? Leah.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
No. Go ahead, Ron, and then I'll.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is, if we really want to see, whenever this jump increases, whenever we want to see vampires coming as part of our society, a part of our contemporary culture, it is our friend from Ireland named Bram Stoker, who took the mythology of Vlad the Impaler and made him into his Dracula. So if we talk about myth building, Bram Stoker is really the guy that we owe all this vampire mythology to, because he transformed a 15th century Romanian ruler into the undead, the vampire that we know today.
And Leah, what is your take on this? How do we go from Bram Stoker to actually having vampires out there? Can they turn into bats like we see in the cartoons or in the movies?
Well, I would have to say no. I don't think. I feel that Hollywood has glorified and has, added their own mystique and their own mythology. But don't forget, when you have basis of stories from ancient folklore and mythical beings and mythology, they are based on some form of truth. These people, orally would, sit around the campfires or around the hearths, and they would talk and discuss. What Bram Stoker did, he more or less romanticized the whole thing, the creature. And then you go into the Victorian age, where all of a sudden it's a sex symbol. They're not these dredges that are coming out of the earth, or that they have rotten flesh. They're actually very illuminated, very beautiful individuals. So it's all about the whole mystique and the allure of what the darkness is. It once again goes back to our beginnings, when you go back to the Atlantean, the Sumerian, the Mesopotamian, the Babylonian times, when the first knowledge of these beings existed. As well as, like, going back to Vlad the Impaler, he was basically, to his people, to his time, for the people that he helped take care of, he was a rock star to them. He really knew how to do psychological warfare. That's how he controlled and made sure that no one came into his territory, no one harmed his people. So that's another aspect of Vlad. And he is known as the son of the dragon. Is he still in existence? Maybe, maybe not. They never found the body. Did he truly die, or didn't he? But you can see through, like, different aspects in history. You have Elizabeth Bathory. She, once again, she was a Hungarian, a Slovakian countess. She lived in the 15 to 1600s, and what she did was horrific. Taking young servant girls from, around the peasants and so forth. Hundreds and hundreds of young girls would go to work for her, but never ever leave. She was known to be, very horrific in her tortures and what she did. It wasn't until the nobility, the daughters of the nobility, when she was calling out for more people, more young girls to come to her, that they started to question what's happening. And once she was imprisoned, okay, she had maintained a very youthful figure. She was imprisoned within a few weeks, a few months. She became a haggard old woman. So there is truth to the myth.
Mm-hmm. What about all the little nuances, like I had mentioned moments ago, about turning into a bat or only needing virgin's blood? Where did that all come from, Leah?
Once again, you're going back to, your folklore. You're going back to, people that had certain beliefs. The virgin blood, because it's a pure blood, because it hasn't been tainted, it hasn't been, it hasn't been deflowered. That's why it's so important. It's a cleaner. It's more of a spiritual aspect to it. As for the bat, the wolf, once again, you're going back to, if you look at witches, those are familiars as well. The cat, the dog, the black dog, and different things. So can they turn into those beings? I wouldn't say that they could, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have guardian wolves. Do you understand what I'm saying? Having, dogs or wolves to protect their keep or where they were at.
Mm-hmm.
But to turn into something of that nature, I would have to say maybe that's just Hollywood.
Ron, what's your take on that?
Well, yeah. Again, I'll look at this from a historical point of view, and this is my assumption. What was going on is that we have Bram Stoker's Dracula written the latter part of the 19th century. I believe it's something like 1897. So this is about 30 years after Darwin's Origin of Species came out, and we talk about the evolution of man. So what he has done with his Dracula is he does not conform to the rules of Darwinism, does he? He's able to de-evolve into animals much lower than himself. So he kind of turns the world upside down. And he can become something less than what he is with the same intelligence of the human mind. This is very, very scary. But I think that's what Stoker is doing in Dracula. That he's dealing with the tenets of Darwinism and kind of shedding some light on his own personal feelings about Darwinism, as well as setting the scientific community very uneasy about creatures that may be capable of de-evolving. But it's getting back to what Leah had said as well, too, about the whole ideas of familiars. Nobody creates in a vacuum, so he knew very well what wolves represented, what bats represented. These are very devilish creatures. When we think about Halloween, we think of bats. That's something that goes back the whole way to the Samhain, harvest. The final harvest and the bonfires that went back to the times of the Celts. So he was dealing with symbols that were readily knowledge, people had knowledge of for, thousands of years.
So do you think it's just when you look at vampires today, or people acting like vampires, or spending thousands of dollars on their teeth to get fangs made up and so on and so forth, really trying to play the part? Do you think this is all just mystique and romanticism for what a vampire truly is? Or do you think there is actually walking undead around right now, Ron?
Oh, see, now this is a good point. This is a good story here. Do I think that there is the walking undead? I think that it's extremely possible. And this, again, is from historical research that I've done. When we talk about the Nosferatu, like I had mentioned earlier, we are talking about an animating spirit that possesses the body of a corpse. So it's actually something taking over the body. And these are interesting scenarios because, of course, I believe in the idea of the Goblin universe and other dimensions. That, and I also believe very firmly in the notion of what a ghost is. So it seems like there is the capability of a spirit to enter the lifeless body and somehow reanimate it. People have talked about this for thousands of years, and people actually went out hunting for these reanimated corpses. And we do have historical literature that states about people finding, breaking into a tomb and finding, blood on the lips of the deceased. Of course, this was explained scientifically that the body fluids were somehow escaping from the orifices of the body. But that's not always the case whenever you really read the contemporary literature. Something more was going on. We talk about, the scratching on the inside of a coffin. People assume that the person was was buried alive before the time of any kind of medical equipment could, completely rule out that a person had some sort of life within them. But no, if you read the contemporary literature, something was going on. There was something preying upon the living. One person in a village would die. A plague almost would break out. People would experience a death, forms of consumption, almost something like tuberculosis outbreak, but something also different. And these kind of plagues would be traced back to a particular person that died. They would go to the graveyard. They would exhume the body, and the body seemed to be, still exhibiting some form of life, and the creature would be dispatched. And it's interesting how they would do it, because of course, running a stake through the body to keep it in the ground. That's the idea by the stake, to keep the body from rising up again. But, that was far from what had to be done, because you also had to remove the heart, and you had to burn it. You had to scatter the ashes. You usually had to decapacitate, you had to cut off the corpse's head. I couldn't talk there for a second. It was all designed to keep the reanimating force out of that particular body. So I think that we do have enough historical evidence to at least suggest that reanimated corpses have preyed upon the living.
Would that not be zombies?
Yeah, it would be. Well, the original Night of the Living Dead, which was actually not filmed very far away from Leah and I live, they didn't describe the zombies in that movie as zombies. They described them as ghouls. And it's interesting because that is a Islamic term for a type of jinn, Jinn, where we get the English version of genie from. And a ghoul in that mythology is something that enters the recently deceased and reanimates the corpse. So, if you want to talk about zombies or ghouls, something bringing back a body to do its bidding, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Because I know with the zombie factor, if you go into Louisiana or you go into the Caribbean where they believe in zombies, I mean, they're actually burying people with cages over top of or at least they used to bury them with cages over top of the crypt, so that way, just in case they turned out to be zombies and were zombified, if that's a word, they couldn't get out of their crypt.
Yep. I've actually done some research that suggests that the idea of the tombstone was meant to actually keep the body in the ground. It was a form of weight to keep the body in the ground rather than its intended purpose of a memorial. So, I mean, these are all very interesting things. But, if you go into certain cultures, especially that has, some sort of African influence, definitely. I mean, we're looking at a belief system that has come across the ocean that came with the slaves that is now populating these Caribbean areas and these areas of the Gulf states. This great mingling of ideas to produce, the idea and the notion of zombies, and we're seeing this played out in the burial practices in those areas. And there's also talismans that can be used against them. There's a whole assortment of things. I mean, whenever we think about the typical items to use to combat a vampire, from the cross and holy water and silver and garlic, these are all things that are still employed to this very day to keep away not only vampires but other creatures of the night as well, and zombies being one of them. We
have about 2 minutes here before we are going to go to break. Leah, I want to get you in here. is there then a big difference as to what Ron was explaining between what a vampire would be and what a zombie would be?
Well, once again, as Ron had said, you have your folklore and you have your different, cultures. Zombies, what we know today is what Hollywood once again has created. It's this walking, meat-eating, dumb thing that's walking around. But that's not what the true zombie or the true vampire was actually created for. If you're looking at like a zombie, zombies were created as a form of a slave, that it would do its bidding for whoever reanimated it for whatever purpose or for whatever reason. And it would have to fill out and complete whatever tasks were given to it. And like Ron said, there's many different ways, to protect and use. You have your garlic, you have, whether it's a cross or any religious symbol that has meaning to you. As a protection, it's going to keep those things at bay. You have, they always talk about wooden stakes, but and any wooden stake will do, but it should be made out of ash wood. Ash wood was one of the things that the stakes were made out of, because the ash had an important symbolism to killing a vampire. Mustard seeds is another thing. You could spread mustard seeds out in front, of your house. And in this turn, because of what they say in folklore, your vampire would become obsessed with needing to count all those mustard seeds, and by the time he was done, the sun would rise. And there again, you have like your symbolism, the break of day, the rooster is also used as another protection because he chased away the darkness. So a lot of people had roosters for that particular reason. It wasn't just to have, go ahead.
No, I'm just amazed by the whole rooster comment, how they tie into this.
Roosters are a protection because they chase away the night, because they signify and draw in the day. They're announcing daybreak. Therefore, they were used as a form of protection.
Excellent.
They were also used as a protection against ghosts as well.
Well, let's get into the power of the rooster right after this. We're going to hop out for a break at the top of the hour. 2 hours down, 1 hour to go on Spaced Out Radio. Our guests tonight, Leah Madden and the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Talk to you on the other side.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night? The sounds of wood knocking in the forest? Odd happenings right out of a fictional world? These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Rivulet Reiki and Ratings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a realm reading, come to my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back for the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us along for the ride as we do this every night starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Tomorrow night on the show, author Annie Wilder will be with us. She's written an awesome book about paranormal experiences by semi-truck drivers. We're going to hear what they're seeing out on the highways on a nightly basis tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio at spacedoutradio.com and on Spreaker. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, S-O-R. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we have the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, and Leah Madden with us. And it's always a good time when these two are on the show. Good to have you back for the full show.
Yeah, and only about another 57 minutes to go. I cannot believe how quickly this time flies.
It's sickening how it flies so quickly. It really is. You know, at times I don't understand it, but it happens that way. It really does. Right before the break, Ron, we were talking about how roosters came into play when it came to the paranormal. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, one thing about the rooster is it's been long associated as a symbol for the sun. So we talk about vampires fearing the daylight. Roosters are something that seemingly call forth the dawn. I think that's the basic association with them. That whenever you hear roosters call, that soon the night will be giving away to day, and to have a rooster around, probably is a premonition or at least hopefulness that the dawn will come sooner than later. So I have no problem envisioning, European villages having roosters around as a sort of a guard dog to ward against the spirits of the night, because these are such creatures associated with the day. And that's the way that I see it, that they are what calls people awake in the morning, and to have them around is a good thing. And creatures of the night might stay clear of such a place, because to hear the cock crow would soon inform them that their time was going to be at an end.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of today's vampire culture, Leah? Because today, like I said, we see so many stereotypes. In the 2000s, late 90s, we saw this big fantasy of people starting to dress more like vampires, and like I mentioned earlier in the show, even going as far as getting their teeth sawed down by dentists, with some dental surgery to look more like vampires. Is it just a cult flavor that people are taking care of here, or is this some sort of repeat in history because people want the idea that they can feel immortal, that they can feel different and live the way they want?
I think it's a bit of both. It's the allure, it's the romanticism of what can be, what you can create yourself to be. It's also a sense of having power, because when you take on that persona, or you take on that aspect of creating yourself as a vampire, that means you have power over others. Your energy is greater than their energy, and it gives you a sense of euphoria to have that form of power over someone else, someone that you see as lesser than you. So it's a little bit of both, I would have to say. It's a resurgence. Once again, though, Hollywood has glorified and romanticized vampires. You have to remember that back in ancient times, they weren't glorified. They were, they were a means to be terrified of. People, they didn't have electricity. They lived in the dark. They only had candles and the hearth, or fires that they could, outside campfires and so forth. So it went from one aspect to the other. But yes, I would have to say it's a bit of both. But it's, like I said, it's the exchange. It's the exchange that you have, that you're taking away from your victim, or the person that is going to give to you that energy or that blood. It's a sense of power. And for most people in today's living, when they feel that they have no control over their lives, that gives them a role to play to have control on a psychological level.
So do you think that these people who are starting up these vampire clubs, they're just doing it out of it's the thing to do, rather than they are actually maybe truly vampires that have been living for centuries, trying to create more of a culture of their own?
Once again, I would have to say it's a bit of both. You do have true people that have, vampiric tendencies, and basically they create these, these worlds or these clubs, and you have the people that are the wannabes that want to emulate, that they want to be like this other person. So it's a bit of both.
Ron, what do you think of the cultural aspect of it all?
I do agree with what Leah had said. I truly do believe that there are groups of certain types of vampires, whether they be, I'm not sure about the sanguine vampires, but at least psychic vampires that probably do congregate together in sort of covens, for lack of a better word. But as far as the culture of the vampire goes, and these people that are pretending to be these spirits, it goes back to Hollywood. It surely does. That it's so romanticized that you're able to have a power over relationship rather than a shared power. That somebody is the master. I mean, what man wouldn't want a situation like that? And all the females are very subservient to him, and his every whim is going to be fulfilled. This is for people that I think have some sort of problems with their place in society where they have some sort of shortcomings psychologically, that they want to submit to somebody and give somebody full power over their entire being. You know, these are people that belong to these types of groups, and I think these are probably the same kind of people that dress up in furry animal suits as well, too. They're living through a persona. They're living a make-believe type of life. But as far as actual vampires, I would have to agree with what Leah said. I do believe that there are groups of actual vampires in existence, at least some places around the world.
So what is real and what is fake then, Ron, in regards to vampires?
Yeah, see, well, if somebody identifies themselves as a vampire, which has happened in America, because everything happens in America, and they go and they slaughter a family and have all these blood rites with the victims' bodies and everything. The line between reality and fantasy is so blurred that, to me, these people are actual vampires, and they might not be, the vampires in the classic sense. There's nothing supernatural about them. There's something very psychologically wrong with them. But for all intents and purposes, these people are vampires. So that is the thing. Reality and fantasy has blurred so much that even those that are pretending to be something that they aren't, in a strange twist of fate, actually become that which the persona that they took on. So yeah, I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time in the United States, and it's a sad commentary on our current situation here. But yeah, there's people out there doing very, very heinous things within their fantasy life, and it's like I said, it's a very sad commentary, but it's something that's very, very real. Look at even the things that happened down in Florida several years ago, whenever the one gentleman was on some sort of hallucinogenic or bath salts or something, and they called him a zombie because he started to devour another person. See, the lines between the actual and the artificial has so blurred that they have become that which they set out to be.
Mm-hmm. And I get that, and I can appreciate that. But we still don't know if we should be carrying around silver bullets or crosses or holy water everywhere we go, just in case, something transforms in the middle of the night right in front of us and wants to suck our blood, Leah.
Well, don't forget, most vampiric beings are very narcissistic. They're very alluring. They will mesmerize you. So you could be in a bar, you could be in a restaurant, you could be at a nightclub. And if they hone in, they pick their victims. They choose their victims. Even the homeless. You have thousands of people that go missing yearly around the world. Now, some of them are, because of homicide. Some of them because they left their life and they've recreated. Some of them because of white slavery. But there are a majority of them. They're chosen for a reason. The homeless are chosen for a reason. People that go missing, they're chosen for a reason by these vampiric beings because nobody's going to question where did they go.
Well, there is a different theory on that out there from Butch Witkowski, who is out of your area, and he does a show here every month on the final Monday of every month, where a source with him within the FBI has stated that these people who go missing annually, which is up to around 65,000 people a year alone in the United States, are actually being taken off planet.
Well, you have to allow for some of that as well. Some of that is, yes, happening. They're taken to maybe a different dimension or an off-planet, somewhere different, to a different planetary system. But there is the percent where you have to wonder and you have to think, okay, what actually happened to that person?
Mm-hmm. I fully agree.
They do feed off of, nobody's going to question where a homeless person went. Nobody's going to question if someone, that's living off the streets that doesn't have a permanent home, or, young girls that are out to have fun, or even young boys for that matter. okay, they go missing. Well, what happened? What actually happened? And you do have certain areas around the world that are your capitalist areas where, they're known for their vampires. New Orleans is known as the vampire center of America. And it's not just because of Anne Rice.
No, and I understand that. We have, next month, we have Carrie Roy on. She is a very popular, intuitive paranormal investigator coming on to talk about New Orleans and the voodoo and the vampires and everything that goes along with the dark side of New Orleans. And I'm very excited to do that show next month as well. But how do we know if we are talking with a vampire or not? You said you have had run-ins with 2 of them. How did you know?
I recognize them. I recognize their energy. They recognize me almost simultaneously. It's hard to describe. It's you just know. You just know. A lot of people aren't aware, and that's part of the problem. People that are more attuned and are more sensitive are more aware because they're used to being more aware. But I've had more than my share of run-ins. Those were only 2 examples. I mean, I've had several encounters with vampires. There was one that occurred a few years back. I was up at the Mothman Festival, and they were having some type of dance, bash, whatever, at the one place, and a gentleman stepped out, and friends of mine that I was with at the time, they're part of our group, Terry and Brian Seach, they looked at me because the guy looked at me, and I looked at him, and I definitely knew. He knew what I was, and I knew what he was. And he quickly, he was afraid. I was unnerved a little bit as well. I mean, it is unnerving, but you can feel the energy is different. Their aura is different. Their whole sense of persona and being is different.
Ron, I want to bring you in here for a second in regards to this topic, because you being someone who studies cryptids on a regular basis, let's face it, it happens daily. And I know you're a believer in a lot of these cryptids, namely Bigfoot, gargoyles, faeries. I get that. Okay, I have a daughter who sees faeries. You know that. We've talked about that numerous times on this show. Where does vampire wrap up for you when it comes to this? Because I think for a lot of people, we love the romanticism about it, but we aren't too sure that, Count Dracula, besides the great serial that it is going to be flying around as a bat transforming into our room, much like Bram Stoker made it sound like.
That's right. So what exactly is the nature of these creatures? And what it's led to me to believe, and hearkening back to our show just 30 days ago, was that these are almost ghostly spirits. These are the essences of some sort of spirit that is capable of inhabiting a body. We talked about zombie, and for lack of a better term, that's basically what is going on, that the human has become a slave to this infecting intelligence that's within them. And that's actually what has been thought of in regard to the transmission of vampirism for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That, the bite, the interaction with one of these creatures somehow infects you, and it kind of transforms you into something that they are. So it's something that's passed down. So it is kind of like an infection, and you become a slave to that entity that is infecting you. So in essence, as I've said, you do become a zombie. You're doing somebody else's bidding. You're acting outside of your own norm. If we are talking about something that's completely supernatural, if we are talking about something that's ghostly, in the realm of the ghost, then we are talking, in my opinion, what would be termed demonic activity.
So are you saying then, Ron, that we are seeing more and more people becoming zombies? I mean, we could say that with technology today. I mean, look at everybody with their cell phones. This younger generation, they're zombies.
Without a doubt. I went for a hike yesterday, and I was in a very, very beautiful spot with my family around a very, very gorgeous lake, and everybody had their cell phones out playing Pokemon Go. They had no idea what was going on with the surroundings. They were slaves to an intelligence that they were holding in their hand. And we do have that. I mean, we do have technological zombies out there. And so if you would that might be the vampirism of the 21st century and beyond. It might not have anything to do with human connection. The vampires of our future might be things that we willingly plug in and let them take over our own consciousness.
I have a question coming from Eric in the SOR Space Travelers, and he is asking, when it comes to vampires, does the RH factor in blood and normal blood come into play? The difference between the two?
You know what? I've actually heard researchers say as much. I've heard people say that if there is an RH factor, it shows some hereditary, marker for vampirism. Again, this is in the realm of conjecture and speculation. There is no scientific proof to it. But then again, if science was able to prove vampirism, I'm not sure if they would make such a thing public. So, but I've heard that before. But in my mind, unless it's proven beyond just somebody talking about it, then I will have to, of course, be skeptical.
And also with the RH negative factor, they have pinpointed there's definitely a different genetic makeup for those people that have that form, the RH factor form, that basically is unknown. Is it out of, alien? Is it alien genetics? What is it based off of? And until that's figured out, it's basically up for conjecture.
Fully agreed. We have about 5 minutes here before we are going to go to break. Leah, I'm going to start with you here. How can someone tell if they are in the presence of a vampire? You
feel disoriented. You don't feel as if you're yourself. Certain signs, having been with someone that's a vampire, you feel very lethargic. You might feel ill, almost as if you have the flu. You feel very drained. So those are certain signs that you can tell that you just don't, Also, you go by your instinct. If you have a very heavy gut feeling that something's not right, then obviously something's not right. Your intuition is never wrong. It's there for a reason. But knowing that you've been around, or you feel that you've been around someone, or to recognize them, you need to pay attention to body language, their eyes. Their eyes will change. They try to be very suave. They're very narcissistic. They need their ego to be stoked. Do you understand?
Does that go for men and women?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. What about an energy vampire? What would be the difference?
The energy vampire is basically what I have just described. When you've been around someone, it could even be a family member, but most people that are energy vampires, psychic vampires, they know. You don't always know, but they know themselves that they are. They will deplete your energy. You could be with that person within 5 minutes and you feel like complete crap. You feel drained. It takes days to recover from. That's when you know you have a situation with that particular person.
So, if you were near an energy vampire, what are the symptoms that you would feel?
Drained, very tired, irritated, very lethargic. You feel that you're sick, you're nauseated, it feels like you have the flu. You might become very angry, disoriented. It just depends.
Ron, have you ever ran into any energy vampires?
You know what, I've not, but in my research and talking to a multitude of witnesses, basically what Leah has described can also be the classic symptoms of certain types of hauntings. The lethargy, the feeling as if you're drained, the sicknesses, that there is some sort of spirit inhabiting certain places that actually draws the life out of the living for, whatever means it needs to manifest itself or whatever. And again, whenever we get back to the idea of vampires, that I view them more to be in the realm of the spirits and the ghostly realm, rather than in the physical realm. That these are spirits that roam about the world looking for the ruin of souls, to allude to the famous Bible passage, and they basically possess willing host bodies and unwilling host bodies, and do their bidding that way.
You also find as well, especially with a psychic vampire, they will often use ploys as the poor me aspect, needing sympathy, needing empathy from someone, constantly being poor me, or they might do the passive aggressive, or they might be very domineering. It's how they work their energy and how they work their personality that creates that energy feed.
And on that note, we are going to hop out for our final break of the night here on Spaced Out Radio. The crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, is our guest, along with Leah Madden. We do this the second Wednesday of every month right here on Spaced Out Radio. And we're talking vampires and a heck of a lot more. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back after this.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio?
Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us.
From the radio, commercials, to banners, to social media.
Have a product you'd like our host to endorse? We can do that too.
Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and download our archives for free. And don't forget to get your Space Travelers membership today. Now, back to tonight's show. Welcome back to the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. We've rounded third. We are heading for home, as we do on a nightly basis around this time. Tomorrow night on the show, we're sticking with the paranormal. We're going to talk with author Annie Wilder. And the book she has written is amazing. It's true accounts of paranormal experiences by highway semi-truck drivers. And you know, they're on the road a lot. I'm sure they've seen a lot of weird things. We're going to get into that tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. You can follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website, which has had a new look for almost a month now, is spacedoutradio.com. There you can check out all of our music from our musical guru, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. You can also check out the Space Wire, where news director Eric Markham has some incredible stories for you to read, along with our blog section. Yours truly and others are writing about what's going on around the world. And you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club, where for only $5 a month, you can get a private section on the website for your postings, your pictures, everything that you want to post. You can also join the SOR Space Travelers Club. With that, you get your name automatically put into draws for monthly prizes and so much more. We're giving you a heck of a lot more than just access to our archives. Tonight we are talking with Ronald Murphy, the crypto guru, and Leah Madden. We're talking vampires. We've touched on immortals. We've touched on zombies. Ron, there was a video recently in the last 6 months on social media. It looks like it comes out of a clothing store or a shoe store where they were showing clients. It looks like it's closed-circuit television. And I don't know if it's real or not. I haven't seen anything say it's busted or a hoax or anything. But one of the clients, a couple of minutes into this video, goes from the counter. He's wearing all black, and he walks past these full-length mirrors, and he has no reflection. Have you seen that video? So when you see these vampires like this video, do you think there's truth in the matter, or do you think that is some CGI type product? Leah, have you ever seen any videos like that where you're like, oh, that's definitely a vampire? Oh, shh. Yeah, I just got that too. I apologize to our audience for that. That is 100% my fault. I forgot to turn it on. So let's get to that too, Ron. I'm going on very little sleep this week, and
I understand, my friend. Yes,
and I apologize to my audience, and I apologize to everybody here. That is 100% my fault on that one. So let's get back to that video that we were talking about, Ron. You saw the video. Let's get to that.
It's back to the whole video. That's right. It showed a closed circuit television that purportedly shows a customer walking past a wall mirror, and there is no reflection as the customer passes by. And we had talked about, is this a hoax? Is this actually the capturing on a security camera of a vampire? I'm leaning towards hoax, but as I stated, if somebody hoaxed it, you're working within the parameters of a particular legend. We know that vampires don't cast a reflection, so the person that hoaxed that is actually feeding us, the attributes of a vampire. So it's kind of like a circular type of reasoning here, that a person hoaxed it because such a thing is actually acceptable.
And what
it very may well be actually the capturing of a vampire as well too. That's one thing that we must also take into account.
And you haven't seen the video, Leah, but you believe that there are instances and real, true information out there that hasn't been CGI'd.
Yes. And the whole myth behind vampires not being able to see their reflection, or you don't see reflection in a mirror, is because they don't have a soul, that they're just a corpse, or that they've lost a part of their humanity. Therefore, they have no reflection, and they cannot see themselves.
I got a couple questions coming in from the SOR Space Travelers, and Robert Rose is asking, do you think that some energy vampires, Leah, come in the form of negative people in your life?
Absolutely, they do. And they may not even be aware of it. The majority are, but some people aren't. But yes, negative people, your coworkers, family members, people that are very, very negative, are a form of psychic vampire, because they suck your energy. You're with them for maybe a few minutes, a couple hours, and you feel as if you're a zombie yourself, because they've completely sucked the life out of you.
And Joe has a question in the SOR Space Travelers. Is it possible that the legend of the vampire and aliens might be part of the same phenomena? Ron, let's give you that one.
Okay, Well, if we remember a movie from the 80s called Life Force, I'm not sure if any of your listeners remember this movie, or if you even remember this movie. It was about vampires found in a capsule from a space shuttle. They were taken back to England. They kind of thawed out of their suspended animation, and all hell broke loose in downtown London. Now, that is feeding off of the idea and the notion of alien origins. Now, aliens have become a big thing since the 1970s. You know, they're responsible for everything from creating human civilization to, you know, putting Bigfoot onto this planet. And now it seems they have their hand in creating vampires as well. What I think is so interesting is the idea of the infection on which vampires seemingly spread their influence throughout the human population. Now, it would be interesting if vampirism, the germ that causes vampirism, might be alien in origin, and that is one of the reasons why whenever outbreaks ensued, you know, back in the Middle Ages and even into the early modern era, that it was so difficult to comprehend, it was so difficult to combat, and they had to look at supernatural causes because what was going on was inexplicable to the scientific viewpoints of the day. So, I mean, I did not rule out that, you know, that there might be some sort of extraterrestrial connection in some of these vampire legends, but I would say it would only be in terms that I have you know, put out there, that it would be some sort of plague, some sort of infestation from a physical point of view, put into to a culture or a society.
And what's your take on that, Leah?
There possibly could have been a race of you know, some form of vampirism from other planets that came here. And that could have been where some of the folklore, you know, some of what our ancestors, you know, going back to Egyptian, Sumerian, Babylonian times. If you look at some of the representations of the gods and goddesses, you know, were they actual people? Were they actual aliens from another, you know, ancient aliens from other planets, you know, from other solar systems? So it is a possibility that there is some race from another world that had come to either invade or help or learn or be a part of our culture and our world.
There is a question about the possibility that vampires could fall under the fairy realm. Ron, what is your opinion on that?
You know, and I, again, as somebody that likes to tiptoe around the goblin universe, I have no problems with that whatsoever. We do have very many instances throughout history of fairies that took up residences around human domiciles and basically drained the family of life forces. I have no problem at all, and you know me regarding that, that there might be some sort of fairy explanation behind the majority of the cryptid reports around the world. No problem with that whatsoever.
And there you go, once again, and I concur with what Ron has said, because you have so many different, you know, legends of the old hag. I mean, you have the red caps, you have the different branches of the fairy folk, that it could possibly be a form of that realm.
Let's get to another question here from the Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers on Facebook. Eric Cooper is asking, Ron, what do you think about the Bigfoot alien theories then?
Well, again, like I said, back in the 70s, I remember watching the $6 Million Man on television. I was, you know, still in grade school, and I remember the episode was on whenever Major Austin was fighting this Bigfoot, and then my whole world shattered whenever he pulled off the Bigfoot's arm, revealing that it was some sort of extraterrestrial robot. I mean, this is something that has been part of our cultural psyche since the 1970s, whenever the UFO wave took over. In Western Pennsylvania, there have been numerous reports of Bigfoot entering UFOs, disembarking from UFOs, sometimes carrying glowing orbs in their hand as a UFO landed in the field, and they, you know, would eventually walk towards it. as somebody that studies history, though, is that you don't really see this association with extraterrestrials in the wild man literature from thousands of years ago, or even hundreds of years ago. This is something that's relatively new. It's a novelty. But I do not rule out anything as well too. So whenever Bigfoot seemed to basically land at a place and take off from a place, is it going from another dimension? Is it coming into our world through some sort of portal, or is it being dropped off and picked up by extraterrestrial spacecraft? I mean, that's one of those things, and I keep an open mind. But as far as I'm concerned, the belief in an ultra-terrestrial Bigfoot makes more sense to me, that it's actually in the realm of the fairy world rather than the world of the extraterrestrial.
Why does it always come down to aliens? You ever notice that?
That is just the thing. No matter what happens on planet Earth, the aliens are the ones that are to blame or to be thanked for. Now, as somebody that really does enjoy history, that is a terrible commentary on what we have done as human beings, from everything from the pyramids to building the great megalithic empires of South America. I mean, we are a very ingenious human species that has been able to conquer the world. And I don't like us to be shortchanged by blaming everything that we've done on some sort of extraterrestrial power. I just don't simply buy it. I mean, I have no problems thinking that we might be visited in the past, or we might still be visited now. I have no problem in thinking about that kind of stuff. But we've got to give the human beings a little bit of credit here as well.
But is it just overactive imagination then?
Well, I think that it's sometimes wishful thinking, that we can look to the skies above and get a savior. I mean, a lot of people aren't religious nowadays, so it's easier to have this kind of quasi-scientific religion in aliens. That it's easier to pray to them. They work within the realm of science than to believe in an omniscient God. It doesn't make any sense to me, but a lot of people, I mean, with atheism just ruling, seemingly ruling the world now, I think that you're going to get into the much more spiritual side of what aliens mean to people, and you can actually probably write this down. I would think in the next 5 to 10 years that you're going to see, churches built to this ancient alien or current alien wisdom and altruism, and you're going to see extraterrestrial religions taking the place of the more fortified religions.
Leah, what's your take?
I'd have to go with everything that Ron had said. I mean, the whole thing with aliens, because there's so much that is left unknown in our world today, so many questions, knowledge is, the great library of Alexandria that was burned. There's so much knowledge that was lost that might have been written down that we could have learned from, in so many different cultures that have different things concerning aliens, sky beings coming down, gods, goddesses, what have you, big fights taking place in the sky. I would have to say that aliens have a way of, they've created a lot, not just in myth, but what we are today.
Right. And when you look at the way everything always seems to focus around them, it almost makes you wonder about the uncommon topic, which seems to be starting to finally gain steam, between the paranormal realm and the extraterrestrial realm. Ron, do you think that's a lot tighter of a connection than most people in these fields believe?
See, I personally do not espouse a lot of the extraterrestrial sightings and things like that's going on. And I hate to keep on doing this again and again and again, and harkening back to the notion of the realm of the fairy and the realm of the fae. But I think a lot of what we term extraterrestrial can be explained in the vernacular of the fairy realm. And that being said, it makes it much more closer to home than it would be to think that these, there's some sort of civilization traveling, light years to get to us. So again, I am the one that kind of disassociates myself with the alien movement, and I rest on my laurels in regard to fairies.
I'll take the alien question. I think there's more to it than what we actually see and what people are willing to admit. And I think that's a big, big part of what we need to investigate more, because I am a firm believer there is a huge tie-in between the two. I mean, you look at the story of the messengers between owls and greys. There's another common topic right there, and that's an animal, not a paranormal event. Then you add when people are, seeing spirits, and then you're seeing how they are turning into an extraterrestrial realm, Ron. I think there is a very, very tight correlation between the two. Leah, I'm curious to get your opinion on that.
For me, the fairy realm, it's a special race of individuals. It's a unique race of beings that were and are still on our Earth and on our planet. They were here as guardians, in the most part, for nature and to be helpful. It is man that created science, the need for knowledge, that took over and basically buried the fairy realm, where the fairy realm kind of closed itself off to man. You do have certain interconnections. There is a connection in between, where you have the missing time and the links that, some of the people have experienced with the fairy realm, just as they've experienced with being abducted by aliens. So you can go both ways. It's until it's proven, until, someone can definitely say, is there a definite connection, or are they two separate, beings, entities in their own right? To me, I feel that there has to be some form of connection, that they came here, that they're a part of Earth. But then once again, you look at the book Journey to the Center of the Earth. Now, it may be fiction, but in some reality, it's been based on truth. So is our Earth hollow? Is there, beings that live underground that come up? There's so many different realms, so many different dimensions, parallel universes. It's you can go on forever and continue and not really know the true answer.
Very true indeed. And it's one of those subjects I think is a black mark on the paranormal field, because they refuse to admit that it is tied into the extraterrestrial realm, and vice versa from the crowd who studies UFOs specifically. And it's one that we may never know. We only have about 4 minutes left with both of you. What projects are you working on right now together?
Together, well, I'm writing a book right now on ghosts, and Leah is writing a book on vampires, as a matter of fact, which has led me to want to do this show. So I think that we've been kind of going back and forth and bouncing ideas off of each other. But unfortunately, this is a busy time for conferences for us both, and we have not been able to collaborate on anything. But I do believe that we have something coming up in August that will involve our neck of the woods, involving cryptids and ghosts and other things that go bump in the night. So probably about another month away, wouldn't you say, Leah?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, probably about another month, a few weeks anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always a busy time. Go ahead, Leah.
And I'm also, like he said, I am working on a book for about vampires. I'm also working in collaboration with Terry Seach. That we're going to be doing a presentation on fairy folk and fairy lore. the little people and so forth. So we're working on that to collaborate so that we can do conferences and give our speech, our presentation. So hopefully that, all falls into place. So something I'm very excited about.
I think that is very interesting. Ron, if anybody wants to find your books, where can they find them?
You can go to Amazon, or you check this out. I got an actual honest-to-goodness P.O. box for any kind of business or any kind of people want to get in touch with me. They can write me a letter if you don't want to do the whole email thing. And you can buy your books directly from me now if you would like. If you do not want to go to Amazon, I could actually probably even give it to you for a slightly cheaper price. So that's going to be Ronald Murphy, P.O. Box 333 in Derry, Pennsylvania, Derry 15627. You can do that. You can we can correspond that way, or if you want to do the the new fashion, I guess I should say, email. It is check this out, Curious Crypto Guru at yahoo.com.
Very nice.
How
Very
about that?
nice. I like it. You're getting used to this whole crypto guru thing.
That's you can do my Twitter thing too, Crypto Guru Ron. How about that?
Yeah, you're hopping on the bandwagon with that. I like it.
I am so on the bandwagon that nobody else can fit on the bandwagon. Let's put it that way. I am enjoying this. This I owe it completely to you. I am going to have shirts made, but yeah, I owe it all to you, my friend.
I want one of those shirts when you get them made.
Hopefully I will see you next year. I'm still counting on it. For all the listeners out there, I've never got a chance to meet Dave. I want to meet Dave, and I will actually be in his relative neck of the woods in September of next year. So I'm hoping at that point, in about 13 months away, I will be able to meet my dear friend in person.
Well, I hope so too, because I'm looking to go back to Pennsylvania next year, I think.
There you go. I just hope we don't cross each other's paths, that you're in the air and I'm on the ground and you come to Pennsylvania and I go out there.
Well, we'll figure it out. Ronald Murphy and Leah Madden, thanks for being part of the Crypto Guru show tonight on Spaced Out Radio. It happens the second Wednesday of every month, right here on the mighty SOR, spacedoutradio.com. Good to have you both with us again.
Hey, I wanted to thank you very much too. Let me just give one shout out. I wanted to thank my brother David Murphy and his lovely wife Amber Murphy for listening to me the first time on the radio, and I hope they become ardent followers of Spaced Out Radio.
Well, so do I, but I mean, after the amateur technical problems that I was creating for myself tonight, they may just say, "Who is that guy? What is he all about?"
No, I will assure them that this was gremlins in the works. That's all.
Gremlins! I love it.
Yes.
We should talk to them one night. You guys hold on. I'm going to say goodnight to the crowd here.
Okay.
All right.
I want to say thank you to the Crypto Guru, Ronald Murphy, and Leah Madden. We got to come up with a nickname for her now if she's going to start coming around these parts a little bit more. Hey, sorry about the technical snafu to begin this half hour. I just zoned out. Bad enough to say that, but that's what happened. Hey, our music man is Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. You can find his album Little Brother Is Watching by going to spacedoutradio.com. You can find a hell of a lot of good features on there, including the SOR Spacewire, our newsroom, along with the SOR Space Travelers Club. Just $5 a month, people, and we're hooking you up. Prizes, special sections on our website, and a heck of a lot more. Join it up today. Would really appreciate that. Tomorrow night on the show, we have Annie Wilder, Trucker Paranormal. Yes, the stories from true semi-truck drivers driving across America. The weird things they may see. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Try our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, for all of your archive needs of this show. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, every single night of the week. When you're done with me Monday through Friday, you head over to Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com, and you pull up Uncle Jimbo James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin as they get things going. We may be extending that show to a 4th hour, just so you know. On that note, we'll talk to you in 21 hours. Mr. Bumblefoot's taking us home right now. Good night.
This is the new totalitarian state. 1,000 eyes are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you fall.